Hey, how's it going, everybody? Shaun here for another edition of Shaun Solo, and today we're going to be doing my top games of 2015. That's right, I've played everything I think I'm going to play that's been released this year. I missed a few games early on in the year. I missed Dying Light. I never got around to playing that. I think that's probably the biggest, of the big games that I didn't actually get around to playing. But I got a pretty good taste of everything else. I got a pretty eclectic group of games here. I'm actually pretty happy with it, in terms of just maybe being able to recommend a few games to people. So the way I'm going to do this is it's not going to be in any real particular order. I'm just kind of going to go down the list. I'm going to give you my short kind of thoughts about each game and why it's where it is. So it's kind of a loose... I say in no particular order, but it's kind of loose. It's a little bit loose in terms of the ordering. But it's generally how I feel about all the games, except for the top ones. The top games are those ones that are actually the top 3 games. I put little stars next to them, so I would know that. Yeah. So let's just start off right at the top. Fallout 4. Yeah, I think people are going to be a little surprised that I did that. Fallout 4, while I think it is an amazing game, I think it's a fantastic game. That's why it's on my top games of the year. I felt like it was a little bit of a step backwards for Bethesda. It was not, relative to other Bethesda games, did not inspire the awe and didn't have the amount of impact, I guess, that other games in this, they've made have had, specifically Skyrim. I think Skyrim was a really great leap forward for them in terms of design and elegance in that way that I think Fallout 4 just does not have. While I enjoyed my time in the Wasteland, I'm from Massachusetts. I recognized a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of landmarks and stuff that I enjoyed seeing in a video game. I still did not enjoy walking around the Commonwealth as much as I kind of enjoyed exploring something like Skyrim. And Skyrim also, just as another point of comparison, I think Skyrim's just systems and the upgrades and inventory. I felt all that stuff was just a little bit more elegant. Well, the inventory's kind of the same. But it felt really, really egregiously annoying in Fallout. I spent way too much time in that menu. But, like I said, you are going to get your money's worth no matter when you pay for this game. So if you bought it right now, brand new, $60, I think you're going to, no matter who you are, there's something for you. It's kind of the game. It's a kind of game that rewards you for your efforts, in a sense. The more time you put into the game, the more the game is going to give back to you. I think I put it in about 50 or 60 hours, somewhere in that ballpark. So I got my money's worth in that sense. Not that I really judge games by that kind of litmus or whatever, but yeah, Fallout 4 is a good game. Not a great game. I was mildly disappointed. Think it's a step backwards, but even saying that, it's still incredible. It's still an incredible achievement. So definitely check that one out if you haven't already, which you probably already have because you're not, obviously you're smart. You're watching this channel. I mean, come on. Next up is a kind of an old-fashioned RPG game, Shadowrun Hong Kong. It came out this summer, I believe. I think August. It's kind of the third part, or the third episode, or the third entry in this new running Shadowrun series, which is kind of a back-to-basics, simple CRPG type style. There's something about the Shadowrun games, especially these newer ones, that I've really, really enjoyed. And I've played the other big CRPG, revival games that have came out in the past few years. I played Pillars of Eternity this year. I played Divinity Original Sin, also this year, actually. And I liked those games. I thought they were okay. But I was not, didn't blow my socks off, honestly. I don't know, maybe it might be just the aesthetic, or the world, and the setting, and the tone, and everything, but I just think Shadowrun is kind of... It's just more for me. And it's a completely subjective thing. I just enjoy more of the science fiction-y, kind of cyberpunk stuff than I was maybe a little fantasied out at this point. So it's cool to you play a game that is more traditionally has fantasy settings, but in that kind of cyberpunk universe. And I've been playing Shadowrun since I was a kid. Going back to the Sega Genesis, I own a copy of it on the Sega Genesis. So there you go. After that, Axiom Verge. Fucking amazing. I put so much time into Axiom Verge, and I keep going back to it. it's just a fun game to play. Even after I've kind of uncovered all the secrets and found all the hidden areas and all the hidden upgrades and all the different ways you can play it, it's a really, really great game. Really great kind of Metroid-esque platformer. Kind of harkens back to that era of game. Definitely top of the heap for me. And I think if you enjoy just like platformer shooters, or if you like Mega Man, or like I said, if you like Metroid or the older Castlevania games, I think you're gonna really find a warm embrace in this game. It's not for everybody in the sense that I feel like some people are gonna think it's a little too antiquated, but I really enjoyed it. Like, I don't know, maybe it just got hooked into me, and it really has not gone away since I started playing it. Like I said, I go back to it. Like, it's one of those games, like, if I can't fall asleep at night, I'll, like, put on some music or listen to a podcast and play Axiom Verge for a couple hours. So, until I get tired. It's just like a nice warm blanket. It's definitely fueled by a little bit by nostalgia in terms of growing up and playing those kind of games, but it's also really well made in its own regard. Like, it stands on its own. So, I would definitely say Axiom Verge is definitely worth checking out. It's a little pricey at $20, I'll be honest. I had like a gift card. That's why I ended up getting it when it came out. I got it on the PC, but I actually ended up buying it again on sale on the PlayStation 4. So there you go. I would definitely give it a try. Next up is Techno Babylon. Techno Babylon is an adventure, old school type adventure game. It's published by Wadget Eye Games, and if you don't know who they are, they've actually put out some of my favorite adventure games in the past few years. Actually, I started playing the Blackwell series for the first time this year, which is kind of like a lauded adventure game series over the past like decade, and that's really great too. But there's a few games on there I did not realize that they had been involved in. It was Gemini Rue and Resonance. Those are two also really great games. But the thing about these games is they always have a really great cast of characters. They have really interesting, kind of intricate plots, and I feel like the execution it's really well executed. It's got some of your adventure game shit, like where it's a little unfair at times, but there's no shame in pulling out a FAQ every once in a while. I mean, come on. It's an adventure game. We all used to do that. Next up, which I'm really surprised that this one actually kind of made my list. This was I'm not surprised it made my list, but I'm surprised that I enjoyed it as much. I didn't really have any expectations for this one. King's Quest, the new King's Quest series. So it's kind of like an episodic style. Basically what it is, in a sense, is like if Telltale ever decided to like improve upon their engine and the way they make their games, it would probably be a lot like King's Quest in terms of function. The game is incredibly charming. It's Sierra's relaunch. Sierra, old adventure game company, made a lot of fantastic games in the early 90s, PC games from my child and my youth. I don't really have too many, nostalgia, memory, or whatever for the King's Quest series. So, coming to this, I didn't really have, a coherent memory of what I should be expecting, and this game is charming as hell. It just makes me smile. Everything from Christopher Lloyd's narration, voiceover, to the art style, the world, it feels like it's nothing like this, but it just evokes the same emotion in me that I feel like when I watch The Princess Bride, if that makes any sense. Very similar sense of humor, really solid. One of the biggest surprises for me this year. It's being released in chapters. It's a little bit more on the pricey side as far as these episodic games go, because Telltale's kind of trained us to in the $20, $25 range. This is $40 altogether. Chapter 2 was released a week ago. I haven't picked that up yet. And actually, the only reason I actually ended up getting around to it was PlayStation Plus. So I gotta be thankful for that PlayStation Plus, because it introduces me to a lot of games that I would not play otherwise, which we're gonna get to a little later on in this list. But yeah, King's Quest. I think if you have PlayStation Plus, you've probably already tried it out. If not, though, I would say it's worth buying. And I'm really kind of surprised at that. In a time where I'm kind of I should be kind of burnt out on that stuff. It's just a really well-made game. It's not too hard. It's kind of sit back and relax. There's one puzzle in the first chapter that's a little irritating, but other than that, it's a pretty enjoyable experience. So King's Quest, the new King's Quest, I would definitely give it a go if you are so inclined. What else we got in here? Okay, the next game I got is Soma. Soma, made by the guys and gals behind Amnesia: The Dark Descent and the Penumbra series. I like a good horror game. This is kind of a horror game, but it's more of a science fiction. The horror comes just from the mood and the tone the game is able to, like, put off. It's not super scary per se, but it just makes you. It's got an eerie sense about it the entire time. There's a few parts that I guess you could describe as classically like scary, classically like a horror game or movie or whatever. But Soma is top of the heap in terms of this stuff. I know everybody was talking about Until Dawn this year, in terms of the best horror game of the year, but I think Soma really, the narrative itself is really great. There's it's really off-putting in a way. There's some subtext there it's really deep. It actually has something to say in a sense. So I was what am I trying to say here? I had expectations for this game. I'm a big Amnesia: The Dark Descent fan. Really love that game. I really enjoy the Penumbra series. So I had expectations for this from those people, and I think they delivered in my opinion. This one's way more story driven than anything they've ever done, in a more direct way, in the sense that it actually kind of delivers a narrative to you. So it kind of even in a sense felt a little bit derivative of like BioShock. But having said that, and not just because it takes place underwater, but having said that, like, it stands on its own. It tells a really interesting story. And I was super into it. I beat that game in 2 sittings, and it's not a super long game, so it's not really that impressive. But I played it once in the morning, and then I came back to it that night and beat it. The day it came out. Okay, so these are in order of what I think is the best games of the year for me. It's for what I've played. I'm gonna have a few honorable mentions at the end here, but we're almost at the end of the main list. So, my number 3 is Rocket League. Thank you, PlayStation Plus. I never would have tried this game. I'm not a sports game guy. Not in any way that I would actually buy one. And if somebody had football or basketball game, they brought it over, hey, you want to play? I'd be like, sure, why not? It's a game. But I would never purchase one. Rocket League is actually got me into playing a sports game, and actually my entire family owns it now. We all have PlayStation 4s, we all have Rocket League, and it has I've derived so much joy from that game. The game is pure joy, pure in a really weird way. It is so satisfying. Some of the most satisfying moments of this year, playing video games, came from playing Rocket League. There's nothing like just scoring a sick goal or being on a good team and everybody's working together, you're firing on all cylinders. You just feel incredibly accomplished, which is the best I think a game like this can make you feel. It's fast paced, the matches are quick. You can play ranked if you want to play super serious. You can play unranked if you just kind of want to dick around, where it's a bunch of kids just chasing the ball around. There's a few different game modes. They're supporting the game with free map updates and stuff like that, and game type updates. The only thing that they're really charging for is kind of the superfluous stuff, aesthetic things like cars and doodads for your car. That's the only thing they're charging, and that's really awesome. And from what I understand, it's actually doing really well for them, because they launched this as a free game on the PlayStation 4. That's really what gave it a life. And I think a lot of people have bought it after the fact. Just because the word of mouth was so good about the game. But yeah, I'm really, really happy because it's a sequel to this weird PC game that's got it's like Rocket League in the title, but it's a really long, ridiculous title that I had never heard of. So I was really pleasantly surprised. It is in my top games of the year. I have probably the most fun I've had competitively all year. In a competitive game. The only other games that I play competitively are competitively, I say that in quotes, online competitive games is just shooter games, like Battlefield. I'm still playing Battlefield 4. I can't put that on the list. So, yeah. So, Rocket League, if you have not played it, if you have it on PC, it's got a really healthy community. You'll never not be able to get into a game, no matter what game type you want to play. So I highly recommend it. Number 2, Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. I love this fucking game. It's almost like, that's kind of why I think, like, I dinged Fallout 4 so hard in my mind, because Witcher 3 came out. And I think, even just in terms of, like, the inventory system and what it accomplishes just in that way, is way more elegant than Fallout 4. Actually, it didn't launch that way, but they addressed it. Like, they went through, they have heavily supported it with patches. CD Projekt Red is a great studio. They really love their fans. They even sent thank you letters to people that pirated the game. It's fucking crazy, because I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but CD Projekt Red, Polish studio, they actually started as a game piracy company. They used to sell bootlegs of games, because it was, they weren't sold in Poland. So, I don't know, so I guess they're going back to the roots and be like, thanks anyways, guys, like, I appreciate it, even if you didn't, we appreciate you playing it, even if you didn't pay for it. And it's a big achievement, in my opinion. Like, it's not, this is, like, the best, like, example of iteration. Like, the Witcher series, the first one, pretty rough. Enhanced Edition, obviously, a lot better. Second one, a little better than that. The Enhanced Edition of that was obviously better. But third, I feel like they've really, like, honed in on kind of the best parts of making this game. And they've made it accessible for everybody, and I think, and a lot of people are going to knock it for that, being like, oh, they went too mainstream or whatever, but, I mean, like, it was such just a fun world to exist in, and be part of, that I think letting it be accessible to as many people as possible, and letting them play however they wanted to play it, whether they wanted to play at the harder end of the difficulty spectrum, or at, like, the pathetically easy end, it's fine. Like, I would bounce back and forth myself. But I played a lot of it on easy. My first, like, my first dalliances with it. Like, because I just wanted to exist in that world and go talk to people and do these side quests and enjoy these characters and, like, be part of this world. It was really, like, engrossing. I was super engrossed in it in a way that, like, Fallout 4 didn't. So I don't, and that's just obviously, entirely subjective, but I think The Witcher 3, top marks. It is almost a perfect RPG. In the modern sense, right? Like, in the modern game sense. It's kind of set up the bar pretty high, in my opinion, especially for games like that have, like, these big worlds and stuff like that. So I think, like, thinking about next year, like, Mass Effect Andromeda is going to have, like, that's kind of what that game is going to have to... It's going to have to get to the level of The Witcher 3, to me, in terms of just how I feel about it. It has to be at least that good. Like, they have set the bar really high. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to totally disagree with that, but I would disagree back. So there. And my number 1 game of the year. So I was a little bit... I didn't know what to do about this one. I didn't know if it was going to make it, like, if I was going to have it as my number 1. But, when I really, really thought about it, and it's a game I keep going back to, I played it last night, more just dicking around, not doing anything particularly important. I just really like playing this game. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. It is kind of a really mediocre Metal Gear game, but god damn it, as just a video game, it is incredible. It has some of the best controls of any third-person action game I've ever played. Not just, putting the even like and then on the stealth side, like, buttery smooth. It's got a great challenge that I think is fair. It's got, like, people... I think people are definitely going to be one way or the other about that game. And that's kind of what I've seen. I've seen people... I've never seen anybody say that they hate it. Other than, like, Metal Gear Solid fans are disappointed in the story. And that's kind of a separate thing. I was disappointed in the story. I think the story is really lackluster. I did a whole video about it, if you want to go check it out. It's a 45-minute long video. All about how underwhelmed I was by that story. And the way it was told, actually, more than anything. But like when it just comes down to pure mechanics and gameplay, I mean, it's really hard to beat Metal Gear Solid 5 this year. And I've played, you know, Just Cause 3, I played Assassin's Creed, Syndicate, I played Batman Arkham Knights, I played Mad Max. Like, I played a lot of these third-person action games this year. And still, I don't think they even hold a candle to Metal Gear Solid 5 functionally. I do wish, you know, it's not a perfect game. There's no such thing as a perfect game. It's not a perfect game. I do wish there was more variety and kind of geography. I wish there was at least one more area we went to, you know, because you go to Afghanistan and Africa. Those are the two major places you go to. I wish they had made one more that was like more of a... Actually, you know, it would have been cool if they kind of went somewhere where there was snow and shit like that, but I digress. It's some of the most satisfying like times I've had actually playing a game. Like, you feel incredibly accomplished. And kind of in the same way, like, you know, I felt accomplished when I played Rocket League, but in this way, but that's usually just because, you know, with the teams working together really well, you get the satisfaction that you derive from, I think, a lot of games, especially like this, because there's kind of a strategic level to how you, like, approach these things. So, like, there's a strategy behind playing Rocket League, you know, in terms of relative to, like, how you play with your team and what the pros and cons of certain teammates are. Like, there's an actual strategy there. You have to think about it. Metal Gear Solid 5, the strategy, like, there's a lot of actually planning that goes into, like, if you want to play the game a certain way. Like, the challenge is up to you in terms of, like, how you want to approach an area. It's either you can kind of do the guns a-blazing thing, but I don't recommend it. I don't think it doesn't break the game at all, but like you're gonna die. You're gonna die. Like, and it's not very satisfying, honestly, unless you get in a tough spot or whatever. But just going, like, making a plan, figuring out how to get in the base, like, and it doesn't take very long. And I think the system they created, like, mechanically to, like, deal with infiltration and stuff like that is fantastic. It's like the best I've ever played. It's certainly in a stealth game. Certainly in a stealth game. So I can't recommend that highly enough. I think anybody would like Metal Gear Solid 5, honestly, just on a gameplay level. Whether or not you've even played the other Metal Gear Solids, this is the first Metal Gear Solid you can just play it. You don't really need to be into the lore or understand the other games in the series or whatever. I mean, granted, if you know about that stuff, you're going to get a little bit more out of it, but just mechanically, it's so sound. That's what I was thinking about. Like, you know, there are games maybe, I think, obviously, narratively, I enjoyed more, and I'm a big story guy. I really like a good story in a game. In anything. Well, I like good stories just in general. But, like, I don't know, just something about Metal Gear Solid 5 just keeps bringing me back to it. And that's really, to me, that's the highest compliment I can pay a game. And in a world where I have access to literally I own hundreds of fucking video games. I have access to hundreds of video games. And I still make time to go back and play one. Like, that's, to me, like, that means something. It must mean I really like it. So yeah, those are my best games of the year. I have a few honorable mentions. I would throw Bloodborne on there. I think Bloodborne was a really fun game. I kind of appreciate those games more than I like them, and I always buy them. I own all of them, but I don't love those games. Like I said, like I appreciate them though. I actually like watching people play them more than I like playing it. Excuse me. So there you go. Another one was kind of more of an indie game. It came out over the summer. Titan Souls, the one-hit death, kind of like you're this little third-person, kind of like bird's eye view, and then you got to just go kill these bosses. That's all it is. It's like a boss run, basically. And each boss has their own kind of weaknesses, and you got to figure out the strategies to beat them, and you get upgrades for your weapons and stuff like that. It's a really fun game. I never beat it. I got pretty far, though. I ended up actually going back to that at some point next year, but really, really great game. I would really recommend that. Tales from the Borderland. I don't care about Borderlands, so I've never really gotten into the games very much. I played like maybe a few hours of Borderlands, a few hours of Borderlands 2. That's really about all my experience with it. So I was really surprised that I enjoyed this game. Not only was I surprised I enjoyed it, I was surprised I liked it because not just because it was Borderlands, but because I'm really burnt out on just Telltale games. And this game kind of brought me back a little bit. Like, it reminded me of how much fun I had when I played, like, the first Walking Dead, I guess, in a sense. Even though it's just a really fun story. So, it works. And the last of my honorable mentions, I would put a Wii U game, actually. Mario Maker. Mario Maker is a ton of fun! Even if you can't make levels, it's a ton of fun, because you can just go online and play other people's levels, and granted, there's a lot of shit, and I wish that they had a better way to, I guess, sift through levels to find, like, quality ones, but it's a lot of fun. Like, that's another one, when I can't sleep, I'll just throw it on, play for an hour or so, just play through some, like, a Mario, the 100 Mario challenge thing or whatever. But yeah. So that's my best games of the year. That's my thing. So what are your favorite games of the year? What's the things that you thought? Anything like not on my list that you thought should have been there? I think granted that I'm probably not going to agree with you because these kind of lists are completely subjective, and I'm not really trying to please anybody. So there you go. Just for the sake of conversation, anything if you feel like I left anything out, or if there's anything you would like to recommend to me, I would love to hear it. If you want to shout it out in the comments section, you feel free. Alright, everybody, I'm Shaun, and I will talk to you guys next time I got something to talk about.